On the 30th of July 1966, England celebrated defeating West Germany in the World Cup final at Wembley. Across the city in the East End, the Krays and Foreman celebrated the arrest of the Richardson gang. Now that every credible threat to their dominance had been removed, the Krays embarked upon an orgy of mindless violence that was designed to demonstrate their power and cement control. On the 12th of December 1966, Frank Mitchell was sprung from Dartmoor prison and brought to a flat on Barking Road in East London.
Frank Mitchell was a product of the environment. He stole a bike when he was a little kid, and his father, instead of going round to the person's house and saying, look, my son's just nicked your boy's bike, here's his bike back, he didn't do that. He took him to the police station. He got the kid in juvenile court, and this was the beginning of Frank Mitchell's career as a criminal, really. And it was his father instigated it, really. And he had no confidence or trust in his own father. But you know, where do you go from there? You know.
Mitchell started off when he was a 16-year-old kid. He stole a push bike. He got nicked for that. And then he went through the system, Borstal, but he was so volatile. If a screw said something to him, he chinned him, and that was it. And that followed him right through all the different. He'd been to Rampton, Broadmoor, Wakefield, all the top nicks, and none of them could control him. So why the Trims thought they could control him, I don't know.
Ronnie Kray got friendly with him in Wandsworth. And he used to send visitors in, give him money in, and look after him. And of course, that's how their relationship. He looked at Ronnie Kray like as a hero. Mitchell looked at him and thought he was a hero, you know. And because he wound up in Rampton for the criminal insane, and he was a handful for the prison system. And with attacking and screws and other prisoners, and I know he stabbed Bruce Reynolds in Worm and Scrubs in the bathhouse, which I never forgot. I remember. Yeah, Bruce was good. He was a great pal of mine, Bruce. And I was when I heard about that, I wasn't happy about that anyway. But then he escaped from Rampton with another prisoner, and they was on the run, and they got an axe. And they was the Axemen, they were then, and in the newspapers, but they got captured and sent back, and then he was sent to Broadmoor for the criminal insane. So he wound up in Broadmoor, and then he escaped again from Broadmoor, and he got himself an axe again, you know, when he terrorised an old couple in there, and nicked their car and their jewellery and their watch and things like that. So then he got captured again, so he went back to Broadmoor, and then I don't know how many years, 17 years or so later, he went to Dartmoor, and of course, by this time, after all these years had gone by, they'd been in touch with him and writing to him and sending him money and stuff like that, Ronnie Kray, because he was a very generous person, Ronnie Kray. Because Ronnie, when he got out of Epsom, he kept free for 6 months, and then he got a date to go back from Epsom mental place, asylum, whatever it is there, back to Wandsworth to finish his bird and get a release date. But when you're in those asylums and places, they never give you a date because they never know when they're going to let you free. So this is what was happening with Frank Mitchell. So Ronnie, with all his connections and his political connections with these different people, Boothby and Co. and Dryburgh and all that activities that were going on, he thought he could pull a few strings, and if he got Mitchell out, he would be able to get him a release date, and if he handed himself in after 6 months and behaved himself and never got in any trouble.
The initial plan was Mitchell would remain in the flat, and various members of the Kray firm would write letters to the media highlighting his plight in the hope that he could get a release date.
So this is how engineered Ronnie's crazy idea to get him out, you know, one of his mad things. He got him out, and of course he exchanged one prison for another because he was holed up in a room. He thought he could go out and club it out and put himself on the firm and go and do all sorts of villainy with the twins and be their right-hand man, and, you know, in his mentality. And of course he couldn't do none of those things. All he could do was exchange one prison for another, really.
Unfortunately, Mitchell, a huge man with an uncontrollable temper, made a lot of demands. He wanted a woman. The Krays brought him a woman. He wanted food. They brought him food. But nothing could really make him happy.
So they did everything to keep him quiet, got him an hostess and some sex and things like that. And tried their best to keep him sweet. And then the idea was to smuggle him out abroad, you know, to get him to Australia or Spain or somewhere where he could live the rest of his life, not in a happy, or get him in the country. And he would never be able to survive it in England, you know, but get him out of the country might have been all right. And I had the facilities to do that because I'd got people out of the country previous, you know, train robbers out of the country. I managed to do that, you know. He got too much for them. I mean, they couldn't handle him. They was fucking had minders around there looking after him 24 hours 7.
He's in a flat in Barking?
Yeah.
Eventually, Mitchell started saying, "I want to get out. I want to go and walk around the streets." He became an absolute headache for the twins. So with Foreman's debt and facilities in mind, they decided to murder him.
So they had minders looking after him day and night, and they were all terrified and shit scared of him. And they was complaining all the time. And so they got me over, asked me to come over, and I went to see Reggie and Charlie, and they said, "Can you get us out of trouble here and help us?" And they had rings under their eyes, and they threatened to go round and take their mother hostage, and he knew what to blame if and he would take 6 coppers with him. If it was the police turned up, he would shoot his way out and take 6 coppers with him. This was what he was saying.
The time had come for the Krays to call in the favours that were owed to them. Foreman and his associates were asked to murder Mitchell and dispose of his body using their facility. A man of his word, Foreman agreed that the debt would be honoured.
So now they're really worried now. So now they've got to get some help from somewhere, and they come to me again. So I'll go over and see him, and so I've made arrangements to pick him up and take him out of the country, you know, take him away down the country. And this is what happened.
On the night of Christmas Eve 1966, Albert Donoghue was in the flat with Frank. Some men came to the door and said, "You know, we're going to take you to see the twins. The girl will have to stay here, but you come with us." So Albert walked out of the flat with Frank. He said goodbye to the girl, and they went out through that door into the street.
We had to separate Mitchell from the girl. And he wouldn't trust anyone else, only me, because I got him off the moor. So he trusted me. So my job was to get him out of the house, away from the girl. So I said to him, "Look, what we do, we go and spend a few weeks with Ronnie and Christmas, but you know what he's like, he won't have a woman around him." So I said, we'll let her follow on. We'll go on ahead and let her follow on. I said, then if we get stopped, it's every man for himself, but she won't be involved. So he liked the idea of that.
After leaving the flat, Albert Donoghue and Frank Mitchell walked around the corner to Ladysmith Avenue.
As we turned into the main road, there's a skinny young copper come walking towards us, beat copper. I thought, for fuck's sake, don't say. You'd expect to say, "Excuse me, sir," because his father was over all the papers and on the television. Yeah. I thought he was going to say, "Excuse me, sir, are you Mr. Mitchell?" He looked fucking slow with him. I felt him tense up beside me, so I said, "Come, Frank, turn it in." We went round the corner and there was the van.
Parked on the curbside was an old commerce-style van. The back doors were open, and inside sat Freddie Foreman and another man named Alfie Gerrard. They motioned for Mitchell to get into the vehicle, and he sat on the wheel casing.
And that's when I started to realise there's something funny happening here. So, but now the guy comes out the passenger seat, goes round the back and slams the door. Then he comes back and he gets in the passenger seat and slams that door. And I didn't know till later that that was the signal. That they were all settled, and the guns opened up right behind me. Gerrard was here next to me.
8:30 at night, a fella called Donoghue brought him out and walked him around and put him in the back and climbed in the van with him. And he should never climbed in the van, but he did.
He had a revolver, right? Foreman was the other side of him with an automatic. So I'm thinking, well, a revolver's got maximum 6 rounds, but automatic anything up to 20.
The people in the flat heard the gunshots going off, you know, they heard the shots going off. So it was car backfiring and all that, and the girl panicked, and they panicked, and everybody panicked.
But the guns opened up, pow, 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 pow. And poor old Frank, he went down, his knees doubled underneath him, he was lying back. And they were still popping them into him. I estimate there must have been at least 12 shots.
But the twins wanted him out, didn't they? And they got him out. And look what they done to him.
And he put it come behind his ear and pow. That was it. And they took off. Got to back and I said, drop me here. So they opened the back up and I got out. Because to me it was logical. I'm the piggy in the middle. I'm South London firm, East London firm. I'm the piggy in the middle. I should have gone logically, you know. And I'm walking away from the van. I thought definitely going to get one. Now went back to the flat. We all wiped it down. The wet cloth and the dry cloth, wet and dry right through every surface. And they was all saying, we heard the bangs. What did you do to him? I said, shut up about bangs. It was car backfire. Anyway, the girl was getting a bit excited. And I phoned Reggie and said, that dog won. She said, I said, the dog is dead, but I never. I said, the dog won. That was to tell Reggie that Mitchell was off the plot, you know.
The phone call went through and Reggie Krays said Donoghue said that dog has won, you know, which was to say that everything was okay, you know. That was the sort of code message.
Foreman was now bonded by blood to the Krays.